Manfred von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron, was born in 1892 into a Prussian aristocratic family, resulting in his title of Friar, the German equivalent of Baron. Due to his father's status as an army officer, 11-year-old Manfred was forcibly enrolled, along with his younger brother, into the Rotstadt Cadet School in Berlin, something that his autobiography says he wasn't too keen on. Upon graduation, Richthofen was commissioned as an officer in a cavalry unit, but was recommissioned behind the front lines in support roles when war began. Richthofen did this reluctantly up until 1915, when he was transferred to the German Air Service. It was there where he met Germany's top fighter ace Oswald Boelcke, who chose Richthofen to join his fighter squadron. The majority of Richthofen's victories came during what is referred to as 1917's Bloody April, the preparations by the British for an offensive at the city of Arras. 245 British planes were shot down, a quarter of the Royal Flying Corps' total strength. Richthofen's fighter squadron, just 11, was credited with 89 of these victories, with the Baron personally responsible for 21. The operation served a large part in providing target locations for artillery as well as keep the Germans in the dark about the offensive. The offensive itself was important as it was a diversion for a larger French attack planned to take place a week later at the Iron River further south. The first day of the attack saw an advance of 5 kilometers, among the furthest of any offensive since the war began. Despite how the attack on Arras was regarded as a great success, it did little in changing the strategic situation of the Western Front. The German Spring Offensive was Germany's big chance to win World War I. They had just won against Russia, but at the same time the United States declared war and began deploying troops to Europe. It had to be before the Americans arrived in full force if Germany was to win the war. And so, from the 1st of March 1918 until the 31st of May the same year, the German military launched the biggest offensive of the whole war. On April 21st, Richthofen flew a mission in Flanders, fresh from the hospital after being shot in the head and forced to take 2 months off, during which he wrote his autobiography. Authorities considered grounding him permanently due to how his death might affect public morale, considering how his achievements always made the front page of German newspapers. Instead, he insisted on returning to the front lines. With him on the mission was his cousin Wolfram. Because he was near, he was ordered to watch the battle from above. Coincidentally, Wilfrid May, a novice Canadian pilot, was told the same thing. Richthofen immediately flew up to support his cousin, firing on May and chasing him away from the fight. However, possibly due to brain damage or PTSD from 2 years of fighting, he continued firing even after crossing the front line into British territory, something he knew was dangerous. Below, troops began firing at Richthofen's plane. May's captain, Captain Roy Brown, had just caught up and was shooting as well. A shot hit Richthofen in the back, killing him. Many allies held Richthofen in high regard, and he was buried with few military honors at a cemetery outside of Amiens, France, by a local squadron of the Australian Flying Corps. By honoring the codes of chivalry expected of a German nobleman, Richthofen earned the respect of both his fellow pilots and foes. He always tried to bring his enemies down alive, referring to himself as a sportsman, not a butcher, and he would invite captured pilots to dinner before sending them to prisoner of war camps. Massive gains were made at the start of the offensive. However, supply lines were not adapted with the rest of the German doctrine, meaning it could not keep up, resulting in the offensive being stalled. Many German troops began losing the towns the Allies had left behind, and morale fell as they saw how much more supplies the Allies had compared to them. The spring offensive ultimately ended in failure, leading to riots forcing the Kaiser of Germany to abdicate and the signing of the armistice.